Pierre. Welcome to the EcomCrew podcast.
Nice to meet you, Michael.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. We almost didn't happen today. We had our signals cross just a little bit, and I'm so glad that your assistant just emailed and we got you on. I'm so excited to interview you today. It'll be a little bit different than what we normally do. It's usually people who are selling some type of product or looking for some hack for Amazon. But very, very different today. You founded Lazada, something that I'm familiar with only because we have a team of 27 people in the Philippines. They kind of refer to it as the Amazon of the Philippines. And I think that this is for my entertainment, their entertainment, and our audience's entertainment more than anything else. So thank you so much for coming and doing this.
My pleasure.
So before we get started, maybe to introduce yourself, tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you ended up here today.
Yeah. So thank you. So I'm Pierre. I'm French, obviously. So hopefully my accent is not too strong. I can't get rid of it. So I'm an engineer. I actually studied in the US a little bit at MIT in Cambridge. Then I moved back to Europe when I was at MIT. I met my wife, my spouse, who is a Singaporean. So
okay.
I actually very early on spent time in Asia, and I actually discovered eBay at that time. So this is early 2000, and so we started a business of importing phones, cameras, watches from Asia to Europe. There was price arbitrage at that time; it's gone now. And a bit of fun doing it. Afterwards, I segued into consulting at McKinsey for very long, 8 years. And in 2012, I was in Singapore. We started our family in Singapore. And I got back into e-commerce, co-founded Lazada, which is an e-commerce platform in Southeast Asia, so Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam. When we started, there was not really much in terms of e-commerce in the region. And we grew together with the digital revolution that happened over there. Cheap Chinese smartphone came in, 4G, social media, it was booming, and we became number one. We got acquired by Alibaba in 2017. So we're actually more the Alibaba of Southeast Asia. And I became the CEO of the company for 2 years, 18 to 20, largely to drive the integration of Lazada into Alibaba. And over the summer 2020, I moved back to Paris and started another business called Branded, which is we are a platform for macro brand, challenger brands on digital channels. And I think we're probably going to spend a bit of time talking about it today.
Both?
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you met this Singaporean. Was that in Paris? You guys were dating there and she brought you back to Singapore, or you had ties to Singapore some other way?
So I met my lovely wife at MIT on the university. As simple as that. And yes, she brought me back to Singapore 12 years ago, or more than that now. Yes, that's how it's funny, all played out.
I also have an Asian wife, and when I first got married and all that, I never thought that it was going to ever coexist with our business. But go fast forward 10 years after we were married, we're over in China, and she's translating for me, and we're sourcing products. And it's funny how your spouse can become a huge part of your business in a way that you never thought would happen.
Yes, very true.
So
of course, a big part of your life. Yes,
exactly. Right. And so you're in Singapore at this moment, and you had some experience with eBay, and you just felt like Southeast Asia was just this underserved market where an eBay-like type platform could exist. Is that kind of what the thought process was?
Yeah. So I think the story was actually there was a group of people who had this idea to launch an e-commerce platform, and I joined the team in the early days. So it's I remember my boss at the time, or the CEO of the company. We met and at a coffee shop and discussing about hey, we're gonna transform the region. We're gonna change retail. We're gonna build a multi-billion-dollar company and so on. And then we're dreaming like this. And then there was only a few employees, a few things, and then fast forward 5 years later, actually a lot of the things that we're talking about just happen. And
Actually happened.
I think and it's this region is fascinating, Southeast Asia. It's an absolutely fascinating region. It's got very diverse. You have like all the different religions of the world. The languages are all different. The alphabet is all different. Geographies are different. Climate, people, culture, history, political system. Everything is different. And there's back 10, more than 12 years ago, the region started to prosper, to grow, and a lot of people came into the middle class, and they didn't have access to shopping malls at every corner. You don't have a Walmart 15 minutes away,
right,
everywhere you are in Southeast Asia. And so at the same time, they had access to internet via mobile phones, only via mobile phones. And basically the regions and retail was ripe for disruption. And we saw that. We built a value proposition that, based on trust, based on speed, and it worked very well. So it was an amazing adventure.
And was the concept to start with for you to source your own inventory and sell it on the platform, or was it similar to an eBay where third-party sellers were selling on the platform?
No, so I think at that time, so we were sourcing, or we were actually buying the inventory at the beginning. There was a huge lack of trust in the region,
right?
A trust among the e-commerce. So we came in, we say, hey, we're gonna buy products, we're gonna QC them, verify they're authentic, real products, and then we will deliver them using cash on delivery. So you don't have to pay ahead of time. You don't need a credit card. There was little credit card penetration, and that was a value proposition that was very strong to the consumers. They're like, I can trust e-commerce. I can go online and have a high quality product and deliver to me. And then, but quickly we turned around to a marketplace and to bringing sellers on the platform, because that was create the vibrancy. That's where you bring the entrepreneurs onto your platform, that suddenly you have new things that happen that you wouldn't even think of, and that growth happens even faster than anything. So that's what we did.
Interesting. And just as much as there was a trust issue on the consumer side, paying cash on demand, COD or whatever for the products, I had to imagine that just building that infrastructure, getting people like on little motorbikes driving around the city collecting cash, become targets with lots of money in their pocket. Was that an issue, or it didn't really ever become a problem?
So of course, I mean, when I left, we had close to 15,000 courier people driving around Southeast Asia. So obviously, that's a lot of that's a big operation to manage. But I would say two things. I think first, in the end, it's not that much catch that they carry for one day, one person. Right. So the risk is very, very spread. And secondly, we had a lot of processes that we put in place where they would deposit money into the ATM and things like this, which, we had a lot of controls, which made it relatively smooth. Now, obviously, it is not a very sustainable payment method. We want to move to digital wallets and so on. Right. That's very clear. But in order to build this trust, I think that was very, very important.
Interesting. So, I mean, it's cool. Like each individual courier can just stop by the local ATM and deposit the money in your account and go on their way.
Yes.
And they really everything. Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. And so as things evolved in the marketplace, I mean, logistics for that seems incredibly difficult. You got people all over the world trying to ship to, some type of warehouse or center to get the inventory into in a local jurisdiction. There's a dozen different importing rules and jurisdictions, import duty type stuff. Some places the infrastructure just isn't even there. Like, I mean, for us trying to send things to the Philippines, we experience this firsthand. It's kind of like a roll of the dice. I live in Las Vegas. I feel like I gamble just as much sending things to the Philippines as I do at the craps table. How did you guys deal with those types of issues?
You're familiar with the Balikbayan boxes, I'm sure. So So I think two parts. First, when it comes to the infrastructure in the country, it's extremely challenging. So we actually from the get-go started to build our own infrastructure inside the countries. So we had our own warehouses, we had our own ability to deliver, and as well as for this, integrate with partners. So we had a lot of partners to work with us. So I think that was for inside the countries. Obviously, an issue to scale, But I think also I think consumers are understanding. You know, when you want to deliver something to Papua, they understand it's not going to be next day. You know, so
Right.
there's you have to build infrastructure together with the development of the country, and I think that's what you do. When it comes to cross-border, indeed, that was always a huge challenge. From the get-go, I think a lot of our sellers were typically the son or daughter of already an importer, a wholesaler, and they used the network of their family or their business in order to do digital channels. One thing what they did from the get-go, we said we're going to be the gateway to Southeast Asia, and we built the largest B2C cross-border parcel delivery network. We had a lot of merchants in China with sorting centers in each of the big cities, which sorting centers EU, Shanghai, Shenzhen, and we would aggregate the parcels and ship them and plug them into a network in Southeast Asia. Over time, we developed a relationship with the customs and import officials in each of the countries to do this in a completely transparent, open, and efficient manner together with the custom official. And I must say, in doing this for 8 years, it's incredible the pace at which the infrastructure, the rules have changed. Fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially in countries that, again, where the infrastructure just isn't there, there's a lot of bureaucracy, you know, things happen at a much different pace than in America. It's not like these big capitalistic countries. So it's interesting that they've kind of figured it out. But like, I think at the same time, they realize that all their citizens like want this stuff. And, you know, in order to become a growing and emerging country, they have to, you know, be able to get this stuff right. So it makes sense that they actually can make it happen.
Exactly. It's exactly as you said. Yes, Michael.
And I can understand, you know, just from this discussion where Alibaba's interest came in, right? Because I mean, they have access to all the goods, and they're trying to get more of those goods, you know, spread around the world. A lot of goods that come out of China are really directed towards the Eastern world. I mean, like, I didn't really understand this until I spent time at like the Canton Fair or the Yiwu markets and stuff like that, where things that just would not ever pass as high quality in the United States or things that like really do well in some of these Southeast Asian countries. And so, you know, Alibaba like had the network on their side with all the relationships with manufacturing and being able to proliferate that to parts of the world that were interested in those goods. Just seems like an amazing fit. So I can see how they reached out and why they reached out and acquired you guys.
Yes, I think they were looking at the region for a couple of years, and we are already at the team, part of the infrastructure, and I think it was very complementary. They brought in technology, they brought in the merchants, they brought in capital, obviously, and they brought in also a certain clout in the region in order to drive changes in terms of the environment and the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. And you said that you stayed on after you guys got acquired for 2 years as CEO. How did things change for you day to day and after being acquired?
Well, the first thing, I mean, we continue to our growth trajectory. So we're talking about a company that double, you know, every year or close to double every year. So within 2 years, a lot of things change just within. I think then we worked on what I mentioned. So and also what you mentioned. So we worked to bring assortment from China, plug the factories into Southeast Asia. We worked on leveraging technology. We deployed the technology of Taobao Tmall into Lazada, which was an amazing boost in terms of ability to handle more merchants, more consumers, more assortment. And then we focused on continue to build the infrastructure on the ecosystem within Southeast Asia. So that's what we did. And the story goes on, you know, so it's, which is absolutely, you know, it's very uplifting to see that, you know, you have an adventure, you build something, and then, you know, you move on to the next chapter, and then the story goes on. And
your baby's all grown up now and doing its own thing.
What's going to happen next? Exactly. Yeah. So that was fantastic.
And at the end of the 2 years, what was the kind of the decision to leave? Was that kind of a part of the purchase agreement when they bought it? You would stay on for 2 years, or was it just you were burned out, time to go, ready to go do something else? There's always lots of answers to these questions.
Yeah, there's always many different parts to this kind. It's basically a new chapter. Lazada is now completely integrated within Alibaba. A lot of the management is from Alibaba, and new chapter for me, new chapter for the company, and also coming back to Europe. So now I'm actually living in Paris, spending a lot of time now. I'm presently in New York, so I'm spending a lot of time in the States since recently, since the border opened. So that's a new adventure.
Gotcha. And so what was part of it? Because I know I went through this myself. It's like, oh, I'm going to just retire, and then after like 6 months or however long it takes, it's like, wait a second, I'm actually an entrepreneur at heart, and I got to get back into something else.
Yeah, I think I think I would say short answer, yes, Michael. You've got the bug, and I think you love building things, and that's it. I think what it was is a combination of meeting people. You do this with a team, so great co-founders in my new adventure, and I think an amazing opportunity now. COVID accelerated a lot of things on the digital world, and thirdly, I think the way e-commerce works in Asia is a bit different than what we have in the West, and
very different.
I think a lot of the ideas that things have been exposed to, I think, will be very successful in US or in Europe, and I was quite excited to be part of that.
Interesting. So, what are some ideas that you think that work well in the East that aren't being implemented right now in the West that could be successful?
So I think the philosophy of e-com is our e-commerce platform are quite different. So if you are on Amazon, and Jeff Bezos says it, I'm here to save you time. Search, find the product, buy, click, done. At Alibaba in China, so Taobao or Tmall, shopping is like an entertainment. So you go on the platform, and
right.
The goal is to make you lose time. So you discover products, discover things, and the whole experience is more. You just open the app. The whole experience is more colorful. There's far more products everywhere. You can play games. You can interact with your friends. You can follow sellers, and they post you content and videos and stuff like that. And I think a lot of this will come to the West. I think I just give an example. We have a small brand called Ototo. They do a very nice kitchen products, for example, and we started to drive the brand onto TikTok, and the response has been absolutely incredible. We have millions of views on our account, and it's just after 1 month, and it's driving out of stock every time. We have a viral video on Amazon, and I think it shows that people are very ready to have that kind of interaction when they during their shopping experience.
And so is that what Branded is all about then? Is it to buy or start brands in these spaces, like things that can go viral and meet that Eastern culture?
So I think yes. I think at the heart of what we do, we basically create and grow digitally native challenger brand. That's how we call it. So and we want to, of course, make them household names. And where you're right, Michael, is that we focus on socially engaging categories or market segments. Where consumer care to shop, not necessarily because they have a functional need, but also because they have we can build an emotional attachment to the brand or to the product. So that's it. That's one big criteria for us. So the kind of category we focus on as beauty and personal care, for example, we focus on health and wellness and home/design products, where we believe there's some social engagement to the product and to the brand is very important. So that's what we do, yes.
Oh, I think things like jewelry would work well as well. Things are people love sharing.
Jewelry, I think jewelry, fashion. These are categories very interesting, very challenging also from a supply chain perspective for a whole kind of reason. today we are not on our radar screen, but yes, you're right. Same characteristics.
And are these brands that you're starting from scratch, from the ground up yourself, or do you go out and acquire already existing brand and try to throw rocket fuel on it?
So we do both, Michael. So we have so we acquire brands, but we also have partners. We partner with entrepreneurs that, and we invest in them, and they continue to build their brand and build new brands. So we do both. I think primarily I would say we acquire, Michael, because I think we want to focus our platform more in from the 1 to 10 as opposed to the 0 to 1, if you want. But we also do some launches when we believe that we want to make sure that we have a comprehensive a presence in the beauty segment, and sometimes you don't necessarily have on the kind of segment niche consumer group that you want to go after. It's not always possible to acquire. In that case, we look at launching also.
Interesting. And what size businesses are you looking to acquire? I mean, is it, I guess, a two-part question? Are you also looking to add multiple brands into the same category to kind of dominate the category? Is it just like one kitchen brand that sells a neat tool and one beauty brand, or is it I want 7 beauty brands, or how is that working there?
Today we have around 40 brands for Zero.
Okay.
So
it's quite a few.
It's quite a few, yes, but obviously there's a Pareto here. There's some bigger brands and smaller brands. I think we acquire businesses from $5 to $25 million in terms of revenues, or even lower. We focus on, I would say, niche or challenger brand. So typically, when you look at intersection of consumer segment and market, I think our brands do not overlap, I would say, too much, because we have specific segments and consumers that we go after for each brand. So typically they wouldn't overlap too much, but at the same time, it also happens that we have some overlaps in our portfolio. And in that case, yes, that's great, because you have a bigger market share in the niche you're in. So that's okay.
Perfect. Makes sense. And so if I were to get you back on the podcast here in, let's say, 5 years, what do you think the story is going to be? Where do you think Branded's heading? Where do you think Pierre is going to be in 5 years doing all this?
Yes. I think to put a great question, and to give a bit of context, I think there's a huge revolution happening, or changes. Revolution maybe is a bit too strong, but big changes in the way consumers shop. And I mentioned we discussed about it, about social and so on, more entertainment, but also how our supply is matching to these consumers. So we are seeing the emergence of smaller and smaller brands. And if you look at all reports, the smaller brands are gaining a bigger share of the growth than the bigger brand. And and I think COVID and what we've seen has accelerated that. A lot of the growth now comes from marketplace that are able to and platform that are able to really do a great job in matching consumer demands and very specific products. And I think in this context, I believe groups will emerge that will manage these niche brands, these challenger brands. And Branded want to be one of these big groups, like the last retail revolution was when big box retailing happened. And this is when Walmart appeared, and this is when Unilever and Procter also emerged on this. And we believe with the changes in e-commerce, big new kind of retail consumer group will appear. And of course, Branded wants to be one of them. I think I want 5 years from now, Harvard Business School, look back at the time and say, hey, this is, changes in retail, and I would love to be a case study in this, that's and of course shape it, Michael. So I think that's where we think we will be in 5 years. And at the same time, in the end, we believe that what works is a great product. The heart of commerce is having great products at great price for our consumers. So I think 5 years from now, I want to have thousands of these great products that we can for our consumers.
Very cool. And I think you'll be a Harvard Business case study twice, as I think you also did the same thing with Lazada, right? I mean, think about Southeast Asia was like the forgotten part of the world. Nobody was really spending time there. The eBays, the Amazons, et cetera, all going after the Western world and just kind of ignoring Southeast Asia. And now, they're having a hard time clawing into there now that they realize that that they want to be there because they weren't first to market. And I think that you have a similar insight. I mean, like I never really thought of this until you just mentioned it, but I've spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia myself, and as soon as you said it, the light bulb kind of goes off because that's exactly how things are there. They're these adults turn into like little kids when they're on some of these platforms because they're just so excited to be, and they get like immersed and lost in their phone, which I think is bad in a lot of ways. But their shopping experience definitely kind of coexists with a social experience, both online and in real life, and it's interesting how it all integrates.
Totally.
Awesome, my friend. Well, I think we'll leave it there. Can't thank you enough for coming on. If people do have a business that they think might be, if they're listening, I think they might be good for brand day, how can people reach out to you and or your team and let them know they have something you might be interested in?
Yeah, so you can look for me on LinkedIn and send me a message. That's we also have a website, joinbranded.com, and you can reach out to the team from there. So,
perfect. We'll put all
try
that
to
in the
be
show
very
notes.
responsive.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Pierre. Really appreciate your time, my friend. Have a great day.
Thank you, Michael.
Bye-bye.
Bye.